Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. On today's episode, Sam Altman warns of a world-shaking cyber attack. An AI startup gets breached because an employee downloaded Roblox, and we end with the architectural fix almost no company has implemented yet. If you caught yesterday's episode on AI in the courtroom, today is the proof of concept. Yesterday was about your AI logs being used against you in court. Today is about your AI tools being used against you, period. Here is the contract, 3 connected stories, then a specific architectural pattern your CIO can implement this quarter. No alarmism, plumbing, the thesis up front. AI is no longer just a tool sitting next to your business. AI is now the attack surface. And the fix is not another seat license. The fix is architectural. Today we are going to read it that way. Last Friday, in an interview with Axios, Sam Altman said he expects a world-shaking AI-powered cyber attack within the next 12 months. The CEO of OpenAI on the record telling executives to brace for an event large enough to reset how the country thinks about AI security. You can dismiss that as marketing. Frontier Lab CEOs have an incentive to make their technology sound epoch-defining. Fine. Set Altman aside and look at what the labs themselves are publishing. Anthropic, in their own internal safety evaluations released last month, reported that Claude Opus, when asked to find zero-day vulnerabilities in real software, produced findings that were valid 99% of the time. Not 9, not 49, 99. And on April 18th, security researchers at Cybersecurity News demonstrated that Claude Opus, with no special access and no jailbreak, discovered a Chrome zero-day, now logged as CVE 2026-5873, in 20 hours of automated work. Total compute cost $2,283, 20 hours, $2,200, one previously unknown vulnerability in the most used browser on Earth. The cost curve of finding exploits has changed. Now, to the breach you probably saw scroll past your feed this weekend. On Sunday, the deployment platform Vercel, the company every Next.js shop on the planet ships through, confirmed a security incident. By Monday morning, the headlines read, "Vercel breached." That headline is technically true. That headline is also the wrong story. Here's the actual chain of custody. In February, an employee at a startup called Context.ai, they make an AI office suite, think Microsoft 365 with an LLM bolted into every cell, downloaded a Roblox game on a personal device synced to their work browser. The download carried Lumma Stealer, an info stealer that does exactly one thing well. It hoovers up saved passwords, session cookies, and OAuth tokens from any browser it can find. That was the front door. Lumma harvested OAuth tokens for every cloud app the Context.ai employee was logged into, including the AI office suite that Context.ai itself runs. That gave the attackers a tenant-level view of every customer using Context.ai's product. One of those customers was Vercel. The attacker pivoted from the Context.ai tenant into a Vercel employee's mailbox, scraped 60 days of correspondence, then pivoted again into Vercel's GitHub and NPM accounts using credentials sitting in email threads. Final tally, 580 employee records, an undisclosed quantity of API keys, NPM publishing tokens, GitHub tokens, and chunks of internal source code. ShinyHunters, the same group behind the Snowflake breaches in 2024, is selling the haul on breach forms for $2 million. Mandiant is on site at Vercel. Notice what did not happen. Nobody phished a CEO. Nobody exploited a Vercel zero-day. Nobody beat Vercel's security team. And Vercel has a very good security team. The attacker walked through 3 companies on a single thread of inherited trust. 1 employee, 1 Roblox download, 3 breaches. That is the new physics. Your security perimeter now includes every AI tool used by every vendor of every employee of every customer. One more data point before the fix. GitGuardian monitors every public commit on GitHub in real time. Their 2026 report dropped last month. 28 million hard-coded secrets exposed in public commits in 2025 alone, up 34% year over year. the largest single-year jump in the report's history. The AI-specific number is the one that matters. AI service credentials, OpenAI keys, Anthropic keys, the rest, leaked 81% more than the prior year. Commits made with AI coding assistance leaked secrets at roughly twice the baseline rate of human-written commits. The AI is helpful. The AI is fast. The AI is also leaving the keys on the kitchen counter twice as often. And the kicker, 24,000 unique credentials leaked from MCP configuration files alone. The model context protocol has existed for about a year. Until recently, the official documentation included examples that hard-coded API keys into the config. 24,000 teams copied that example into a public repo. That is the surface area. Now the fix. Most security commentary stops here and shrugs. I am going to do the opposite. The pattern exists. Very few companies have built it. 3 layers: dedicated machine, scoped identity, managed secrets. Layer 1, dedicated machine. Stop running your AI agents on your employees' laptops. The reception desk laptop has Spotify, Zoom, the kids' homework, the airport Wi-Fi from last Tuesday, and the Roblox installer. The CEO's laptop has email, board decks, and the personal Dropbox. None of that belongs in the same execution environment as an autonomous agent that can read your inbox and send a wire. Buy a Mac Mini, stand up a VM in your cloud, or skip ahead. Cisco and NVIDIA now sell a productized version called the Cisco Secure AI Factory, dedicated AI infrastructure as a SKU. Same idea. The agent runs on its own hardware with its own browser with no personal anything on it. When the agent gets compromised, and assume eventually it will, the blast radius is the agent. Not your finance system, not your CRM, not the CEO's email. This is not a fringe recommendation. The IEE USA submitted formal guidance to NIST last month explicitly calling for sandboxing of containers, VMs, serverless platforms to provide isolated execution environments with limited privileges. That is the engineering profession's consensus. Layer 2, scoped identity. The agent does not log in as a human. The agent has its own email address, reports@yourcompany.com, analystbot@yourcompany.com. Provisioned as a user, its own IAM role with explicitly enumerated permissions. It can read these 3 folders. It can post to that one channel. It cannot touch payroll. Every action it takes is logged under its own identity, severable from any human, fully auditable. Microsoft built a product category for this in November. Entra Agent ID, first-class identity for AI agents inside the dominant enterprise identity provider. Okta has shipped the same idea. Google Cloud calls theirs agent identity, and the language in their documentation is striking. Agent identity is, quote, cryptographically attested to the runtime and cannot be impersonated. Read that, and you realize what they are quietly admitting. The service account model that has run enterprise IT for 30 years was never built for this. The numbers explain the urgency. SANS Institute reported this month that 76% of organizations are seeing growth in non-human identities. Okta reports 91% of companies are deploying AI agents. Only 10% have a governance strategy for them. Machine identities now outnumber human identities in your environment by somewhere between 45 to 1 and 144 to 1. Not a rounding error. A new population of users that nobody is managing. Layer 3, managed secrets. The agent does not have an API key in its code, not in its memory, not in a GitHub repo. The agent has an identity, and that identity asks a vault for a credential just in time, every time. 5 reasonable choices depending on where you live. AWS native, AWS Secrets Manager, Microsoft, Azure Key Vault ties directly into Entra Agent ID, Google Cloud, Google Secret Manager integrated with Agent Identity, multi-cloud or on-premise, HashiCorp Vault, which has the most architecturally interesting feature of the 5, dynamic secrets, where the credential is generated on demand and expires automatically. A stolen credential is worthless an hour later. And if your team is smaller, 1Password Secrets Automation, the friendliest of the 5. Pick one, they all work. The point is no human-typed API key sits in a place an attacker can find. Stand back and look at what we just built: dedicated machine, scoped identity, managed secrets. The agent runs on hardware no human touches. It logs in as itself, not as Steven. It fetches its credentials from a vault that knows exactly who it is. What does that architecture remove from the threat model, the receptionist's Roblox download? the CEO's airport Wi-Fi, the API key in the GitHub commit, the OAuth token in the browser cache, the inherited admin rights of every employee whose login the agent was borrowing. Verizon's 2025 data breach investigations report, based on more than 12,000 confirmed breaches, found that 60% of breaches involved a human element. Stolen credentials are the #1 initial access vector at 22%. Phishing is third at 16%. An AI agent on a dedicated machine with its own scoped identity is not a human. It cannot be phished. It does not click links. It does not download games. It does not save passwords in a browser. The majority of malware does not enter through code. It enters through people. The answer to how we deploy AI safely turns out to be the same answer as how we remove people from the riskiest part of the workflow, the part we are automating in the first place. That is the architecture. That is the prescription. And here's the CEO question I want you to take into your next forum meeting. Could you draw your AI agent identity diagram on a whiteboard right now? Not the model, not the use case, the identity. Where does the agent log in? What is the email address? What credentials does it hold and where? Whose audit log shows up if it does something it should not? If you can draw that diagram, you are ahead of 90% of the market. If you can't, that is the conversation you're having this week. That is the YPO Tech Network AI Brief for Tuesday, April 21st. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I will be back tomorrow with more. Until then, stay sharp.